So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create kind of like a slingshot, something kind of shaped like a Y, like this. Then we're going to put a string, a guitar string across it, and then a guitar tuner right here that's going to give us the ability to tighten the string or replace it, or the wire, if it breaks. And so we need a lot of strength in here to hold that apart, so I'm going to make this out of laminated wood. And so that's going to be the first part of the project. I'm going to do it in two parts, this side and then this side, and so we're just going to do one side at a time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build a form to help us make one of the sides. So I start out with a 10 by 12 piece of plywood, and I'm just going to mark it down the center. Then I just need a quick curve, so I'm going to take my compass and just mark kind of a circle there. I'm going to draw a straight line. So there we have our basic drawing for our form. So I had my compass at 2 inches to make this circle here, and now I need to bring this curve kind of in like that. So I'm just going to take just a can, and I'm going to draw a nice circle like that, just so you come down here, make a nice curve into here. So then I want to have 3/8 of an inch all through here. So I'm just going to mark it and draw it. So then for the curved part, I've just moved my compass to 3/8 of an inch. I'll just draw it along there. Now we've got the basic place where we want our strips of wood to be kind of pressed together. So now I just need to cut along here and cut along here. And then we just need to clean up the line using our spindle sander. Okay, so now I'm going to take, I have another 10 by 12 piece of wood underneath here, and now I'm just going to screw the one part of the form onto the bottom. Okay, so now I've got this piece of cherry, and I'm going to cut it up into strips that are a 1/16 of an inch thick. So I'm just going to, I've got it cut down, did my first cut here, and then I'm just going to move it in the thickness of the blade plus a 1/16. So now we have our wood all cut up. So I cut my pieces to 13 inches, and then I've got enough, I got 6 of them, so that should get me to about the 3/8 of an inch that we used to draw our line. So I just put the pieces of wood in a crock pot, because I don't do this very often, and I'll just let them warm up there. And actually the wood I cut bends pretty easily, so we'll just let it sit in there for maybe a half an hour or so, and then we'll put it in our form and we'll press it. So while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to take some paste wax and put it in, put it all along here. I'm hoping that it will keep the glue from sticking to it. So now we're just going to start gluing the piece together with our polyurethane glue. Be sure you're wearing gloves with this stuff because it's terrible to work with. And I just took this right out of the crock pot. So now we're going to put it in our form. So there, it's all clamped up, and so we'll let that sit overnight. There we have our piece. Here I've cleaned off some of the glue here. I got to clean off a little more of it. But what we really want to do is we're going to bring some pieces in like this. And so we want to cut out a piece that goes in here. Okay, so we're just going to temporarily clamp these together. So here's our piece cut out. Now I'm just going to clean up this edge a little bit in here. So to get this curve right, I'm just going to use my compass in the same place. So there I've got a nice curve, and I'm going to clean the wax, make sure there's no wax on here, make sure there's no wax on here. Okay, so I'm going to get everything lined up. I'm just going to put a little mark across it. Okay, so I'm just going to moisten this part up a little bit because it helps the polyurethane glue. Okay, so we're just going to line up our two lines. Make sure a piece is in place. So I think now that we got the two sides glued together and the centerpiece glued in, I want to clean up this area here so that I can lay a couple of strips in this area. So you can see it's nice and even in there. So I kind of made this area a lot longer than I wanted. So I'm just going to lay out where I want my wire to go. And I'm going to add, I don't know, about 3/4 of an inch. And then, okay, so this is going to be, I don't need these parts here, so I'm going to cut those off. But I'm going to do it a little rough because I'll have to cut it again once I get these pieces in. So now we want to line the inside with a couple of pieces. I've wet it down a little bit so our glue works better, and steamed a couple of pieces. You're just going to push that into place. And I'm just going to clamp it into place. So I want to make this side a little bit thicker because that's going to have our tuning peg on there. Okay, so now it's time to pull off our clamps. And that looks pretty nice, I think. Nice and light. That's going to make a heck of a cheese slicer. Next thing we want to do is we want to trim these edges off again. And then I'm going to sand down, using a belt sander, I'm going to sand down these sides here and these sides here. Okay, so I drilled my hole here. I'm a little bit too close to this edge, so I'm going to glue another strip in here. Okay, so I added another piece in here and then just sanded it down. And so next I'm going to drill a little hole in here. Alright, so there we have our hole. And so our string is going to come through here and then wind up here. Okay, so I just have some wood oil, and since I'm going to be using this for cooking, I'm just going to use regular wood oil. I think it's essentially just mineral oil. Let's soak that up. So I'll put a couple more coats on it. I'll let this soak in for a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to attach the tightener. I'm just going to put it through like that. Add my washer, and then the screw is just it's threaded like that. Tighten that down so we can see then how That fits on there. We want it nice and tight. Some of these do have a little screw hole that comes off. I ground this one off, but I think if I were to do this again, I would make this a little bit thicker in here. And then you got room for that screw hole, and that's going to keep it from twisting without having to tighten too much. Live and learn. Okay, so we made our way into the kitchen. So here's a guitar string, and I think this is an E. I think a B would actually work a little bit better, but this is what I had. And what we're going to want to do is thread the guitar string through the hole and bring it up around. Through the hole here, and then bring it like that and up, and then tighten it like that, and then just tighten it in a way that it wraps in. So the beauty of this is that if the wire breaks or it gets old and grungy, you can just replace it with a new guitar string. If it gets loose, you can just tighten it. And just cut off the excess. And there we have it. So let's give it a try. Yeah, pretty nice. Tighten it up a little more. And you've got your cheese slicer. And this is the second one I've made. And my son took the first one away with him to college. So, good luck.